Football, for God's sakes.
Yeah, we had 4 games, if you guys saw that, but there were 4 of them.
3 were great.
One of them was a blowout.
Yep.
The other 3 were great. I thought that the road teams in the NFC, boy, I mean, they had those games. They had them. Green Bay had them.
Yeah.
Tampa had them.
I wouldn't say Tampa had them. Green Bay had them.
Boy, Tampa had them. Yeah. Tampa had the ball. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's another thing about receivers. Okay, let's go back to that.
We're back to Rob's hot take of receivers.
Well, Mike Evans missed the first ball, and I get Baker's got a little Brett Favre where he fires it in there, but you're Mike Evans. They pay you $18 million.
He also made an amazing catch in the end zone.
Again, he had a good game, but that first miss off of his hands was an interception that was enormous.
Yeah.
And that was his fault. Then you get, this is why I say Tampa had that game. You get to where Jared Goff literally tosses them the ball in the end zone. He threw an interception in the end zone. Yep. Tampa dropped it.
Well, and Green Bay had 2. One of them would have been a pick 6, a walk-in.
Well, and Green Bay's was even worse because there's that, but also they still, with all that said, they had the ball up 4 with about 8 minutes left, driving to score a tutty.
Yeah. What ended?
And they lost.
Yep.
So I think both of those teams had it. Jared Goff tried to give it to him. Tampa guy dropped it. Now that guy, I'm going to give a little bit of a pass to, even though it still drives me crazy when, I don't know if he was a linebacker or a DB. I think he might have been a DB, but he drops that. I mean, it was right to him in his hands. When DBs or linebackers drop clear, easy picks, it's maddening.
You know what's weird is
but they're also not receivers, so you understand it. It's worse when the receiver actually drops it.
I'm not going to say it's every game, but the vast majority of games, there is at least one of these where you're like, just hold on to the ball. And this game is over. Well, and that's the nature of football. There's on both sides of the ball, you can almost always point to one in a close game, not Baltimore, Houston, but when it's a 1-score game, there's usually, and they say this all the time, there's anywhere from 4 to a half dozen plays that determine the game.
Well, that's why we love it, right? It's so fun because you've got so many what ifs.
Yep.
The day after, what if on Josh Allen? What if Jordan Love? What if Baker Mayfield? I mean, these games are 3 of those 4 games were so close, they could have gone either way.
Yep.
And I just don't know that any other sport really has that. I think one of it's just the nature of the sport. It's football, and there's only so many possessions.
Yep. Well, that was the thing in Buffalo.
NBA, it's just back and forth and up and down. There's one of hundreds of plays you could, if it comes down to the wire, that you could cite.
But I think in that to your point, I think in that Buffalo, I gotta bring it up. But that second half, I want to say each team had 3, maybe 4 possessions.
I mean, and that's it.
So when you
one tip ball into the fingers of the other team or into the hands off your finger and into the hands of the other team changes everything. So that in those games, all 3 were like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I say I think Tampa had it. I feel like Green Bay certainly had it.
I mean, the pick 6
and Buffalo had a chance.
It would have ended. Yeah, Buffalo had 4 possessions, so they scored. Kansas City got the ball coming out of the half, and they scored. And then Buffalo goes down and scores, retakes the lead. Kansas City goes down and scores, and that's when we had the god awful fake punt. Which, by the way, if not for the Buffalo,
you didn't like that. You like that? You didn't like the fake punt?
Were they just trying to do a Damar Hamlin?
They were doing bits.
Is that what we're doing here?
Is that a good time to do bits?
We're like, hey, we're not certain that Damar is going to get comeback player of the year, so we want to make sure.
You like that? You like that?
Like what? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was bad.
But if you are,
but they survived.
If you're Sean McDermott,
well, that part they survived.
You survived. If you're Sean McDermott, I gotta tread carefully here. I'm not saying that you're happy that Bass missed the kick, but it takes you off the hook because if Sean McDermott, if was it Hardman that fumbled the ball through the end zone?
I think it was Hardman.
Yeah, it was Hardman, I think. If Hardman doesn't fumble that ball, then the Bass stuff never happens. Mm-hmm. And we're all looking at dumbass Sean McDermott and saying that is the stupidest thing in the history of playoff football. You got a 3-point game, right? You're coming off a touchdown. Josh Allen is still rolling at that point, and you decide from your own 35 on 4th and 5 to run a fake punt when they're in punt? Like, what? And by the way, there was only 10 guys on the field, and they stopped you. Like, what are you doing? So he got bailed out. He so got bailed out between the fumble and the missed kick. Because we say all the time, that's the sort of game that gets someone fired. And by the way, it may get him fired anyways. But if it wasn't for that fumble through the end zone, his ass is getting fired because he decided to fake that punt.
Yeah, so the Bass didn't really let him off the hook.
The fumble did. Hardman did. Yeah.
But yeah, that leads us to our poll question. Let me throw that in here. AAA Heating and Cooling, family business, helping families for over 60 years. AAAIAQ.com. It is on X at 1080 The Fan. Today we're asking you which franchise would be best served to fire its coach. You have Dallas and Mike McCarthy, Bills, Sean McDermott, Blazers, Chauncey Billups. What? Or Lakers, Darvin Ham.
What are you talking about, man? The Blazers just got done beating the Indiana Pacers.
How about that?
They're rolling.
Well, you must not have seen last night's game.
Oh, I saw it. Well, I saw of it.
So vote hard. And then Friday we said, we asked you, who is the 4th best quarterback in these playoffs? Brock Purdy got 34%. Yeah. Jared Goff, 28%. CJ Stroud, 26%. So it was very close. Jordan Love, 12%.
Yeah, the Brock Purdy stuff, like that, he just will never be accepted by the the NFL public.
It's not like he played great.
No, he did not.
But of all the quarterbacks that we're going to talk about, who had the opportunity to win their team the game or help their team win the game, Brock Purdy's the only one that actually did it.
Can we all point out the fact that it was literally a torrential downpour monsoon?
Yeah. And that bothered him. You could tell. Well, he even said it.
He's got small hands. Yeah. He does. He got baby hands.
Cabbage hands.
And there were multiple times, I love that term, that in the middle of the play, he took his hand off the ball to try to wipe his hand because he didn't have a grip on the football. He tried gloves. Clearly, that didn't work, right? He had an issue throwing the ball. Can we also admit that Jordan Love, who has big hands and is a physical specimen, Jordan Love played like poo too. Why? Because throwing in those conditions, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, who's unaffected by anything, that guy, it's hard to do. And yet we're going to sit here and say that Jordan Love, and by the way, I think Green Bay's future is very bright. I think Jordan Love played really well the final 8 games of the season, and there's a lot to like there. And so you have to like that. But if we're going to sit there and say that Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback and that he's about to be one of the most expensive players in the NFL, but he struggled to play in those conditions, and Brock Purdy also did the same thing, but Brock Purdy actually led the game-winning drive. Meanwhile, Jordan Love threw the world's worst interception. If Stephon Diggs had the worst attempt at a catch in a big moment, I've been watching the NFL professionally for 20 plus years, and Tony Romo is king of the interception that he did this at least 5 times in big games where I could look at it and say, I don't know what he was doing. I can understand you trying to, like Baker's last interception. I understand what he was doing. It was a poor decision. But I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to force the ball, tight window, thought he could do it, end of the game. That's fine. I can live with that. Bad decision, but I can live with it. It makes sense what he was trying to do. Tony Romo would throw balls that I would look at and be like, and anyone that's been in a film room has this. I've done this, where a coach will look at me and be like, hey, fat ass, Suke, what'd you call here? I'm like, I don't know, coach. What do you mean you don't know? I don't remember what I called. Can you look at the film and tell me what you called? No, that doesn't make any sense. But you went left here, right? Yeah. Which way should you have gone? The other way. Why didn't you? I don't have there's no excuse. Romo did that. Jordan Love's interception will be that on the film. There is not one explanation that someone can give me for that ball on first down, what he was attempting to do. I'm trying to remember who it was. Someone said it the best thing. He threw into a coaches meeting. He threw into a coaches meeting. The defensive coordinator was there. You had the linebackers coach. I think it was Mark Sanchez. He threw into the middle of 4 guys late. I don't know who he was trying to throw the ball to. So Jordan Love came out of that game like, well, franchise quarterback, pay him $50 million. Brock Purdy leaves that game, and by the way, his numbers were better than Jordan Love's, and we're going to say that Brock Purdy's a bum and that he can't win. It's infuriating. And
well, he did win. I don't know who says he can't win. He just did.
Exactly. And
yet in one of his worst games.
Yes. And yet we're like, Brock Purdy sucks. It's so stupid.
Well, I don't. hear a lot of. I don't know. I don't hear that.
That was almost every national talking head.
I feel like he gets. Well, I don't listen to those blowhards. I listen to my own blowhardedness. Those guys are all just trying to get clicks and viewers. But Brock Purdy's good. He just had a bad game. By the way, somebody mentioned Purdy and Mahomes' hands are the same size. I looked that up. Pretty close to true.
Well, then his little cabbage hands need to do a better job of handling it. Or Mahomes is just a different animal.
And that's why Purdy dropped in the draft. It's not that he was going to be like a first round pick or anything.
Didn't have all the measurables.
But he has short arms and small hands.
Yeah.
But looking it up, Patrick Mahomes 9 1/4 as well on the hand thing.
He handles it. No, doesn't matter what weather conditions. But hey, and we can also say this:
Purdy drove his team down, and they got the
give him credit
game-winning score. The other quarterbacks couldn't do that. I mean, Mayfield's interception. I get what you're saying. That
is bad.
It was horrible.
But at least
that's Baker that was right on cue.
Yes.
And Jordan Love kind of was too. That one was awful.
Yeah.
It's just, rookie, he'll learn from that. That's kind of one of those things where you say you kind of need to learn how to win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the myriad of things that Jordan Love will have maybe learned in these 2 games that they played was that and just the risks.
Hey, it's first down, Jordan. You know what? You can just skip that ball or run with it. You don't.
But Baker, he has shown us enough.
He's a gunslinger.
That's just what he does.
He's a poor man's Brett Favre with a big arm, and he thinks he can make all the throws, and he tried to squeeze one in.
But anyway.
And my Motor City Kitties made him pay for it.
Yeah, the Motor City Kitties are on to. Although there's another thing about that game. Okay, so we're all over the place. Right?
I know.
We are all over the place.
There's so much good.
Slow down.
So much.
There's one other thing in the Bucs game that we have to discuss.
Yeah.
Because I think if any other coach did this, they're getting absolutely murdered today.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Absolutely murdered. But this guy, we don't care. I don't know why. It's we're so weird.
Yeah.